Van Pelt. I am study advisor for the Master International Development and Research Master International Development Studies. And together with me here today are Esther Miedema, a lecturer in the program, Gabrielle, Daniel, and Iris. So two students, and also the registrar of the master is present here. So a full team to hopefully answer all your questions concerning the Master or Research Master International Development Studies. What do we have in mind? First of all, I will give the floor to Esther, who will say a few words on the content of the program. You might have read a lot about it already on the web, but she will go into more detail and also stress more on the differences between both the Master and the Research Master in ideas. Then we will ask two students to come to the stage as our graduates of the program to give their thoughts, both positive and negative, to give you a good idea on how they experience the program. Then I will come back after that with some practical matters. We will address things like missions and application for the program, as well as the preparatory program for those of you who need extra training before getting into the program. And finally, we hope to leave a lot of room for questions. You're a large group, so we will try and dedicate a substantial amount of time to that. So I propose we continue as soon as possible. But not before getting to know a bit of who's in the audience right now. Who is currently studying a bachelor in social sciences at the UvA? So who's in social sciences at the UvA? Okay, who is at another university in the Netherlands? Yeah. And who is doing another program at the University of Amsterdam? Not social sciences. Which programs? Humanities. Economics. Okay. Yeah. Okay. And students who are currently at the HBO? One hand. Which program are you in? Okay. Other HBO? No. And who's from abroad? Few hands. Where about, may I ask?
London.
London?
Argentina.
Argentina, wow.
France.
And?
France.
France. Okay, welcome. I think just to get an idea also on the questions later on what I can expect, I will now give the floor to Esther to take it away on the content of the program.
Thank you and welcome again, everybody. I see a few familiar faces. Like you said, I'll say a little bit about the content of the one-year master and the two-year master. Hopefully give a bit of impression or an idea of what the main focus is of the one or the other, and why you would opt for the one or for the other. Can you hear me in the back? Microsexual problem. Maybe this? It helps when you switch it on. Okay. Okay, so I have a few slides and they just help me to structure what I'm going to say. And first of all, I'm just going to click through these. The similarities across the two, the one-year master program in international development studies and the two-year master program. The similarity is that in substantively, they're pretty much very similar. The one-year master is, as the name suggests, it's 1 year, so it's far more high-pressure cooker. You do everything in 1 year. And if you take the two-year research master, there's just a bit more time for the different phases of the program to go through those. And you spend more time in each part of the program. That's a real nutshell description of the difference. They're similar in the sense that they're taught there's a strong link between education and research for both of the programs. And that IDS within the University of Amsterdam departs from a fairly strong collective normative framework around sustainable development, inclusivity, and thinking around social justice in governance, for example. And that's the same for both of the programs. What's also similar is that we have a mix of Dutch and international students across both programs. They're both in English. It's a multidisciplinary approach that we apply within our research group itself, and that also translates in the education that we provide. So each of us, many of us come from different disciplines, but we jointly provide the program. But you might get a slightly different angle depending on which lecturer, which professor you get. So this is multidisciplinarity, which also characterizes the field of international development studies as a whole. There's a focus on more critical analysis of the field of international development studies, but also an attempt to move beyond that and to go beyond criticism to the constructive engagement that's mentioned on the slide. So how could you address problems differently rather than simply critique them? And in each program, so the 1 year and the 2 year, you have a number of thematic electives that you can choose from. And there's another slide on which electives those are. Then differences, I'm just going to run through this again like this. I already mentioned the duration, which is fairly obvious. The 1 year master, and I'll get to the details more in the next slides, you go through the whole cycle of going through the substantive material, developing or learning more about methodology, actually writing up a proposal, doing your research, and writing up your research all in the space of 1 year. In the research master, you have more time to dwell on the research and think about the methodology, and you have more time to develop your academic profile. So there's an extra year of sort of further development, scholarly development. There's also a difference in scale. So the 1 year master tends to be quite a bit bigger than the research master. So this year we have just over 65 students in the 1 year master program and just over 20 in the research master program. So that's a fair difference. The difference in scale in the larger master program, that gets broken down to smaller groups. So it doesn't mean you're always moving with 60 students, but there's just a difference in scale in the plenary sessions. And I mentioned the second part about the academic or the research career preparation for which you have more time in the 2 year program. Just a bit more detail about the respective programs. The electives first. So this is subject to change, but this has been the past 2 years. We've had a broader range of topics to choose from, and the electives at the moment are that everyone takes those in the first semester of the first year, and we choose 2 of the electives in principle. So we have economics of human development. There's an education, development, and social justice track. Urban perspectives on development. Environment, development, and conflict, gender intersectionality and development, critical development theory and social movements, and finally mobility, society, and security. And they also reflect some of the key themes that we engage with in our own research within the research group, which forms the basis of much of our teaching. Okay. Quickly, the 1 year master program. So it's 60 credits. The first semester is a core issues course, which takes you through basic issues in international development studies. We have the 2 electives that I mentioned and the research methods training, and that prepares you for the fieldwork that you would do in the second semester. Second semester starts off with the fieldwork. You write up your thesis. There's a policy and practice seminar, which engages also with the practice and what ideas in practice, and how would you translate knowledge, academic knowledge, into practice, for example, and thesis seminars to help you write up, prepare you, so guide you in the writing up the thesis. The 2 year program, so year 1 has very similar structure, but you get 2 methods electives, you get a mixed methods course, and you focus more on, there's also a course on ontology and epistemology in the program. And that's the whole first year. And only in the second year do you go on your fieldwork. The second year, like I said, is more also preparation of your personal profile and your career. and a scholarly profile. So you also do some portfolio work. I'm sure Daniel also might be able to say something about that. The fieldwork period, you have then thesis writing. You write an article, often together with your supervisor, not necessarily. And you have an academic and professional skills center. So there's more to that. Okay. Again, similar across the two programs is that you always do field work. So that's why there's a required with an exclamation mark. And this is forms a crucial part of the 1 year and the 2 year program. And we see it as fundamental to gaining this experience in conducting research, becoming an independent researcher, setting up your own research and going through that whole process. In the 1 year master, you have 8 to 10 weeks to do this, to do your field work, to gather your data. And the 2 year master is usually about 3 months. Some people take longer, but 3 months is the average. It's often linked, but not necessarily. It's often linked to staff projects or research projects that staff are involved in. So the lecture might be one of the lectures, for example. And that helps them, that you just have the additional support in connecting you with relevant institutions in whichever country you are hoping to do your research in. But there's also many who do an individual project, and that just takes a bit more effort and initiative on your side. But both options are possible. People who know me tell me, no, I wave my hands too much during lectures as well. Expenses is the final point, is that students are in the past, some students have been taken aback by the expenses of doing field work, but this is an additional cost you would need to take into account. So this is, and I think the average budget that's recommended you keep in mind is around am I saying this right? It's safe to say 3,000 euros. I'm sort of looking at Gabrielle and Danny. That's safe. Time for questions, but you have to save an amount of money to do your fieldwork, to buy your ticket, accommodation, etc. You have to take this into account. Your final thesis and that whole research trajectory you do in collaboration with a supervisor. So they'll help you as you're writing up your proposal, together with the course lecturers, support you as you collect your data in the field, and support you in the writing up of the thesis itself. It should be obviously based on your findings that you gather during your field research, and as it's also mentioned here, whilst your supervisor will guide you, it's always that this would be your baby, so it requires a lot of independence as well. The writing time, so again we see the difference. For the 1 year program you have about 12 weeks, and the 2 year program you have 4 months. Again, a bit more time. Just some of the examples